So we're at the top of the hour. I know people are still joining, but why don't we move on to the next slide and get started with some hellos. Hello and welcome everyone. As we wait for people to join, let's hop on over to the chat window and take a moment to introduce yourself and where you're joining from today, and feel free to share anything about what you're working on with ROR or anything else you'd like to talk about. So we'll spend a few minutes doing that while we wait for everybody to come on in. Hello and welcome everyone who's just joining. We're doing some introductions in the chat. Head on over and say hello. People joining from all over the world. Thanks everyone for making the time. If you've just joined, we are saying hello in the chat box. So head on over there.
Hello, Sylvia. Hello, everyone.
Great to see all of these familiar faces and new faces as well. And if you've just hopped on the call, we're just doing some quick introductions and hellos in the chat window. So please feel free to head on over there.
Always interested to know if this is your first ROR community call as well. I think there's at least a few of you whom we have not seen before. Of course, you're welcome.
All right. So please continue to say hello in the chat, and I'll just take a moment to do a couple pieces of housekeeping. First of all, I'll just briefly say hello and introduce myself. I'm Maria Gould from California Digital Library and also lead the ROR initiative as part of our collaboration with Crossref and DataSite. And we have other members of the ROR team joining today as well, who you've already heard from in the chat and who you will hear from in the course of the call today. So Amanda, if you can go to the next slide, I'm just going to give a few refreshers on what these calls are all about and why we hold them and how we hold them. So we've been holding these open community calls every other month since March 2019. And we've used these as an opportunity to focus on updates and new developments with ROR and the various things we've been working on, also to present different topics for community discussion and feedback, and lastly, to be able to feature the different implementations and integrations that community members have been working on. And you'll see some great examples of that today. The calls are open to everyone, and we announce them on various channels, including through our community mailing list and on the ROR events page. If you are not already on the community mailing list, or if you're not sure if you are, let us know and we can make sure to add you. And as of this year, We know that not everyone can make these calls for various reasons, so we try to make them available asynchronously for those who are not able to join. So we put the recordings up on YouTube. And just a quick reminder, as you've already seen, we're using the chat box quite a lot just to have informal discussion. These calls are for you, they're for all of us to interact. So please feel free to post questions in the chat, raise your hand if you want to unmute and ask something. So we really encourage active participation in many ways. Let's go to the next slide. And then there are other ways outside of these calls to get involved. We'll make sure to circulate various links when we send around the recording. But if you are not already engaged in different ways to be part of the ROR community through submitting information on GitHub about features or bug reports or discussion forums about various topics or future directions for ROR, we have various channels for you to do that. We also always welcome input on registry curation activities and records to add or update. Amanda has also been featuring all kinds of case studies on the ROR blog about the different ways in which community members are implementing ROR. So in between these bi-monthly calls, we invite and encourage all of you to stay involved in whichever way makes sense for you. So let's go to the next slide. And with that, I will just officially welcome all of you to this September ROR community call and want to thank all of you for making the time to join from the different places of the world you're calling in today. The plan for today is just to start with a brief announcement and update on the technical development front. And then we're really excited to spend a little bit of time talking about the recent news announced about the Funder Registry transitioning to ROR, and we'll have Rachael from Crossref here to talk about that as well. Then Amanda will talk about some latest updates on the ROR adoption and integrations front, and that's going to lead us into some featured integrations and demos with folks who are joining us today, DataSalon and OA.Report, who are going to walk through what they've been building with ROR. And then depending on how much time at the end, we can have some open Q&A and discussion, and we always stick around a little bit after the call if people want to have an informal chat after the recording ends. So that's the plan for today. Next slide. All right, so our technical lead, Liz, is not able to join the call today, so I'm pretending to be Liz and going to give you a brief technical update that we're very excited to share. So next slide. So over the past year or so, we've been talking a lot on these calls and in other discussion forums about how to update and evolve the ROR schema. As many of you know, we inherited the original ROR data file from Grid, and we've been building on top of that ever since. And we've heard over the past several years a lot of feedback and input from community members about changes they would like to see in the ROR data structure. And so many of you were involved over the past year or so in giving input on the new version of the ROR schema. We really appreciate all of that input and time that you contributed to helping us come up with a new plan. And so now we're really excited to announce that we have the new version of the schema available in beta. And we need and want you to help us test it to make sure that everything is operating as expected. So there are a bunch of links that you see on this slide that we will pop into chat and also circulate after the call. But the bottom line is that we've put together some documentation. We would love it if you are able to check out the documentation, test out the API, take a look at the beta data dump that we've published on Zenodo, and give us feedback. Next slide, please. So we are running this beta testing window through the middle of October. So a few more weeks, depending on timing and other factors, we may be able to extend that a little. And everyone and anyone is welcome to test, and we are particularly seeking input and feedback from those of you who are actively working with the ROR API and data dump. And just a couple of brief notes about the kind of input we're looking for. We're really looking at feedback on functionality of the schema and the API rather than on individual data issues or data questions. You're welcome to ask us about that as well, but the main focus of this comment period is really on the functionality of the API and the data dump. So again, we have lots of documentation, testing guidelines, and instructions about how to submit feedback in all of those links. So please take a look if you are able to test, and we would really appreciate that. Next slide. So some of you may be wondering, when is it actually going to be out of beta and into production? Great question. So the current timeline that we've been working on is to have our public release early in 2024, and we will continue to keep everybody updated about that timing as the months go by. And we've spent a lot of time as part of this schema versioning process coming up with an overall framework and plan for how we version the ROR API and data dumps. And so as part of that versioning policy that we came up with, that you helped us to develop, the V1 API and data dumps will continue to remain available through for another year after the public release of V2. So nothing is going away overnight. Just want to reassure you, we do encourage you to switch to V2 as early as you can, because we like V2 a lot. But if you're continuing to work with V1 for the short term, that is also fine. And currently planning that at some point, beginning in 2025, we will ultimately change the default from V1 to V2. That is also not happening immediately, and we will give everybody ample notice before that changes. But just wanted to make sure that for those of you for whom these changes impact you, that you have a general sense of the overall time horizon. So that's what's going on with V2. Again, please help us test it and let us know what you think. So I think that is it for the tech announcements, and I will pass the mic over to Amanda and Rachel.
Yes, we are very grateful to Rachael Lammey, Director of Product at Crossref, who is here today to talk to us about the big news that the Crossref Open Funder Registry will eventually be deprecated in favor of ROR. Rachel?
Oh, thank you, Amanda. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it seems appropriate, Amanda, that we segue to a blog with your face on it. Yeah, it's great. So obviously, Crossref is I've joined these calls in the past, and this has always been something that we've sort of talked about, in that what we're doing is, as a community, is we are maintaining kind of two lists to serve increasingly similar purposes, or two registries. And obviously Crossref has been one of the supporters of ROR from quite some time, and that's been really great. And we've been thinking a lot about how we can, how we can move towards supporting or having ROR as the sort of the identifier for funders. There's been a lot of thought. There's been some planning, a bit of movement, and I can talk a little bit more of those plans. Amanda, you said let's be brief today, and I think we'll have opportunities to discuss those in more depth in the coming months. But I think some of the feedback that we'd all been getting loud and clear for the community is that we want a statement of intent, or we want a statement of the direction of travel, because everyone on these calls either runs their own systems or works with external systems and other providers. And again, at the Crossref board meeting in July, some of our members were saying, like, loud and clear, making this statement helps us, A, plan and B, supports this direction of travel within our organizations and with things like manuscript submission systems, who need to know that that they're going to have to make changes in the future. So there's a bit more information in Amanda's initial blog, and I know that our plan is to publish a couple of sort of follow-up pieces over the next couple of months to kind of dig into more details, both in terms of the analysis that Adam's done around the overlap between the registries, and then sort of digging more into our plans at Crossref. But I'm happy to kind of tell you what I know now. Next slide. So those of you who've sort of been following Crossref in the last couple of years, we want to make sure that we can kind of support the ecosystem that exists around a piece of work, and identifying organizations and funders and distinctly identifying those is really a key piece of that. Next slide. So in terms of where we are with the funder registry, it's got over 30,000 funders with identifiers, and we've been supporting it for over 10 years. Again, Elsevier provides a lot of the data for that. We work with them on the curation process and maintain the registry with them over time. So it's really important to acknowledge their support. And obviously part of it as well is that they want to know how long they would need to expect to be maintaining the funder registry for. Again, in speaking to them, they're conscious that, again, there would be efficiencies for them in only maintaining in only having to maintain one registry. Cuts down on curation, integration, and administrative overhead. And as I mentioned, there by virtue of Adam's analysis, we can see that there's lots of overlap between the two registries. More information on that coming soon. And I think we also want to look at, and again, Maria and Adam, you've been also rolling your sleeves up in areas where there's not that overlap. And that can be for lots of reasons. So that's sort of some of the things that we know that we're going to want to tackle. And I think we've all got work to do on this. I think what we've said is that, both Crossref and ROR are committed to making this transition as simple and as easy as possible for those who've already, adopted or are using the funder registry. And we're actively having conversations with, certainly with a number of publisher members who are really keen to dig into this to kind of, again, get a feel for exactly what's involved. Next slide. And then I think if you forward it, and yeah, so I've stolen this slide from a colleague, but just to see if we're doing a search in our sort of funder search at the moment, then we can start to see, the works that are associated with a specific funder in the Crossref metadata. And we also know that in many instances, those funders also have ROR IDs. You can see the funder ID associated with those in the ROR record in the metadata. And again, I point to the fact that Adam and the curation team at ROR has been working away to be able to coordinate this and make sure that that the two registries sort of continue to evolve side by side for the moment. Next slide. So we need to do, I would say this is sort of a fairly multifaceted project, both across the different teams at Crossref and working in close collaboration with the folks at ROR as well. So we know that there are places in our schema, specifically in the funding section, where we currently only collect funder identifiers. So in the next month or so, we want to propose, share with the community, propose how we might be able to, how we can support this within sort of an updated schema. So that's kind of key, because if we say we want to collect these in places where we currently collect funder information, then we need to enable that. We're working, I guess, kind of the sort of the behind the scenes stuff is that we are doing a lot of work, I guess, to kind of evolve our metadata model, make it much more relationship based, and what that then would let us do is I guess kind of be more flexible in terms of what we support. So we are building things out so that we have funder identifiers and ROR identifiers in our sort of evolved metadata model, but we're also thinking about ways that we can match between the different identifiers over time, and assert matches, for example, when we get a funder registry identifier and match that to a ROR identifier. And then what we do once we do stop updating the funder registry, so that if we do get, for example, a historical funder identifier, that we can still match that to a ROR ID. So those are the kind of details that we want to make some proposals around and talk to the community about to I guess to kind of get into the weeds of what's going to make most sense. And there is that piece as well, obviously working with the community. I made reference to the fact that we're talking to funders about it, or sorry, talking to publishers about it, funders as well, because again, they're sort of starting to register grants with us, and they want to know which is the identifier of choice to identify themselves. And I think some of the momentum behind this has come from the funder community as well. I mentioned as well, like a big piece of this is obviously the submission systems, from open journal systems through to the Scholar Ones and the editorial managers of the world. And I think anecdotally from a colleague, she was talking to two of those systems at the Alps conference last week, and they said, saw your blog post. All right. So that's the kind of direction of travel that we were kind of aiming to support, so that they can see kind of a statement of intent for us. And, we've said to Elsevier, we want to be able to continue to update the funder registry in collaboration with them through 2024. And we can continue to work with them on those timescales based on how far those other pieces of the puzzle start to move together. Next slide. So yeah, as I said, that integration, that's really key, working with those providers to plan for the change, community input on mappings and how those are collected and represented in the Crossref metadata, and collecting and sending the ROR IDs to Crossref. Easy, right? It's why it's useful to be able to kind of talk about sort of initial plans on this call, and then we want to sort of firm up the details, or at least our thinking over the next couple of months, so that again we can start to kind of get community input on that and help people get even more of a feel for what that might look like and what we're going to support over time. Amanda, I think you said in your blog, this is kind of limbering up and letting people know what they can what they can expect, and also sort of having those conversations so that we can figure out the things that we don't know as well.
Right. I stole that metaphor from you, Rachel. You said it in a meeting, and I wrote it down.
I love a sports metaphor. I can't help myself. Next slide. Okay, so I think that's kind of, I said, Amanda, you'd said quick overview. We'll come back with more details and scope for more discussion. But yeah, happy to take questions. I'll be around for the rest of the webinar, and you can just, I'll put my email in as well. Like, feel free to get in touch, and we'll be back with more details in the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Really appreciate that. And as I said, you can go ahead and put questions in the chat, and we will have time for questions at the end. And we will be scheduling a sort of special Q&A session on this that includes Crossref and ROR, and I think also DataSite, because of course this has implications for people who are registering DOIs with DataSite as well. And we will let you know when that will be. So meanwhile, I wanted to give you just a few sort of statistic-heavy updates on what's going on in ROR adoption. Those of you who have been on these calls before will recognize these charts. I've been showing them every time. Now, the number of ROR IDs in Crossref records and the number of ROR IDs in DataSite records is certainly not the only score of ROR's impact in the world. It's just one of the most easy to track and one of the sort of ones that makes the nicest charts. So I have been showing these charts. They're available on the ROR website, ror.org/about. So as you can see, ever since Crossref began supporting ROR IDs in contributor affiliations, that graph has been going up and up. It's actually, I think, the latest data point on this chart is actually from a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's over 67,000 now. I probably should have updated it a little bit more. As usual, I don't know if Michael Parkin is here, but you can see the little spike back in August of 2022. That is from EMBL EBI at Europe PMC, registering grants for the Wellcome Foundation. One of the interesting things that's not actually shown on this chart, but that you can see if you drill down a little bit more into the data, is that for the first time recently, there are more journal articles in Crossref with ROR IDs than there are grants, which I think is quite interesting. It really shows the uptick in publisher adoption of ROR. We do also have a chart. I track ROR IDs in DataSite, and ROR has been supporting, DataSite has been supporting ROR since 2019, but in order to better match the Crossref chart, this chart begins in 2022, and you can see that there's a much flatter increase sort of through 2022 and 23 until really since April, and you'll notice a very, very large spike at the end there, which I think is quite fascinating, and I'll talk a bit more about that. But so we've broken 1 million ROR IDs in DataSite affiliations as of early September. That little spike is also from September 11th, from a couple of weeks ago. It's an enormous spike, and one of the lessons I always take from this is that spoiler alert, this is a single depositor, a single sort of entity registering DOIs with DataSite, and they've made a massive change in this graph, just as Europe PMC did in the Crossref graph. So there are many people who are, adopting RORs, sending them in, and it sort of drips in a steady way. But certain large depositors can make a massive difference. So what this actually is an organization called the Likeness DSMZ. It's essentially it's a database of microbial strains, and in conjunction, they've just launched a database called Strain Info, and they've registered DOIs with DataSite for every microbial strain that is in their database. And they're going to update these DOIs with new information, and it includes information about the researcher that discovered or created or, isolated that strain, as well as the institution where they did that work. And they have marked those institutions with ROR IDs. So this enormous spike that you see at the end there, which is literally off the charts, was a deposit of about 290,000 DOIs in DataSite that have wonderfully rich metadata. And they're essentially, you could call them data sets, but they're really DOIs for microbial strains. And because they included ROR IDs in their metadata, we're seeing this enormous spike. And then one of the interesting things too, this is a new chart that you haven't seen. I did want to, with this announcement that the Funder Registry is merging into ROR, which was wonderful to see the responses to, I thought I would show you a little bit more about something that I have been tracking for quite a while, which is ROR IDs in DataSite used to identify funders, not used to identify contributor affiliations, but to identify funders. So DataSite has actually been accepting ROR IDs for funders for quite a while, but they do also accept other identifiers, including, of course, funder IDs from the Open Funder Registry. So here's a chart showing over time for roughly just since spring, since May 2023. So the blue lines are funding items in DataSite that include some kind of name for a funding organization in the metadata. So you can see that like a large proportion of these works in DataSite have not only an org name but also an org ID. So the red line is these works that have any organizational identifier at all. The yellow bar is funder IDs, which, as you can see, is by far the most used identifier in DataSite to identify funders. ROR IDs are in green, and you can see that even as recently as May, that was quite low in DataSite. But again, with that enormous deposit of about nearly 300,000 DOIs in DataSite from strain info and Leibniz DSMZ, the ROR IDs used to identify funders in DataSite has increased a great deal. So I have a little close-up of that last data point here from September 11th. Before that single deposit from strain info, there were something like 65,000 ROR IDs in DataSite used to identify funders, and now there are we're creeping up on the Open Funder ID. There's about 40% of the number of works with ROR IDs used to identify funders. So anyway, just a little bit of a data deep dive. As Rachel said, we're going to do some very nerdy data analysis in the next week or so, showing the overlap between the funder registry and ROR in an effort to indicate to people that it's actually going to be very doable, I think, to switch to ROR IDs for these kinds of identifiers. And I think this chart shows that as well, that ROR IDs can be used to identify funders, and it's going to be fine. All right. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Andy Dobson from DataSalon, who is going to tell us about their use of ROR. And there is, in fact, an earlier case study that we did with Andy a few months ago that is on the ROR blog. I'll put the link to that in the chat if it isn't already. So Andy, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. So my name is Andy Dobson. I'm the Client Services Director at DataSalon. I've just got a few slides really just to talk about essentially what we do, how we came to use ROR, and how we're making use of it. So next slide, please. So just by way of background, really, DataSalon was originally set up in 2006 and was born out of a lot of the challenges that publishers faced when trying to establish the joined up view of their customer activity and relationships, mainly from multiple unrelated data sets that they were trying to use for analysis. Next slide. And next again. So we work with a range of scholarly publishers, large academic publishers like Wiley, all the way down to small society publishers, and they really rely on us to help drive new sales, inform editorial strategy, and really provide accurate insight into their whole business. Next slide. Our original product was MasterVision, so that's really core to everything that we do here. It's also become the basis pretty much of all of the services that we provide. So how we use things like third-party data sets like ROR within MasterVision then becomes kind of the template for using it in a lot of other services. So PaperStack is one of those, and we do a lot of work around improving the data quality of publisher data, cleaning, standardizing, that kind of thing. So MasterVision itself provides publishers with a complete customer insight, and that's via a fast, user-friendly hosted service. So it's painlessly merging all of the valuable data from different source systems into a single customer view for all customer types. So I say painless, we do that work. It's quite painful for us sometimes, but from the publisher's point of view, it's pretty painless. PaperStack works on a similar basis. It's providing publishers with a complete reporting suite for the scholarly submissions process. So it's fully integrated with peer review systems, including ScholarOne and Editorial Manager. And again, meaning that it's pretty much zero publisher overhead. Unless the publisher want to include additional data in there, which they might want to provide. But all of the work in terms of improving data, joining data together is done on our side through regular weekly builds. Next slide. So what interested us in ROR? Obviously having a clean and trustworthy reference record to tie customers to is really key to all areas of the publishing process. So we use ROR to help produce a standardized single identity for each organization. And that helps publishers better understand all aspects of the customer relationship. So for example, if a customer is referenced differently within the counter data than it is with the fulfillment data, say, and you can't join those records together, then you're not going to be able to understand how much use they're making of their subscriptions. So that has a big impact on customer relationship. We use the parent and child information included in ROR to show the relationships between records, so between individuals and institutions. So not only visually with a family tree style hierarchy view that we've got in the products, but also it allows for complex data querying. Having that clear picture of the hierarchy obviously allows publishers to better understand customer activity, be it funding, article submissions, content purchasing, etc. So, for example, having that picture allows you to understand things like how many papers are coming out of a given institution, how many authors and reviewers are related to that institution, and how much use they're making of the content. Data standardization itself and the cleansing of that is really central to what we do. We're really aware of the importance of having a free and open standard reference data set for identifying those institutions. Obviously, there's other services out there, but having it free and open means that anyone can use that, and it's not down to who can afford to make use of that data. Just in terms of a little bit of background and history there. So back in 2014, we saw a need for us and our clients to have access to a free and open data set. So we launched ORGREF, and ORGREF itself was extracted from structured information on Wikipedia and other open resources. And it aimed to cover the most important academic and research organizations. So the metadata itself was very similar to what you see in ROR now, things like name, country, URL, standard IDs like VF. We made ORGREF free and open for people to download. It was maintained by us and updated on a monthly basis. So again, similar to ROR. That later fed into Grid and then subsequently fed into ROR. So we kind of like to see ourselves as sort of part of that history of making organizational data free and open. Next slide. So a good illustrative case really of making use of ROR is PaperStack. So PaperStack is providing publishers with a complete reporting suite for scholarly submissions. It's fully integrated with ScholarOne and Editorial Manager, as I say. As part of the standard service, data from those peer review systems is automatically linked and enhanced using open industry data. So things like ROR, Funder Registry, ORCID, publication dates and things from Crossref. And all of that is brought together to help maximize reporting insights for our clients. So that essentially results in a clean, standardized and comprehensive cross-journal view available at the institutional, funder, author, reviewer and article level. So as well as being able to kind of see each of those elements individually, we're joining those all up so that you've got a very complete picture of what's going on. So PaperStack then provides a contextualized view of all of that activity, essentially. So by contextualize, I mean we're using that industry data that I've mentioned for building out a comprehensive view, not only of the timeline and workflow for a given article, but also for other big pieces of the puzzle. So what are the affiliations of the authors and reviewers that publishers work with? What's the hierarchy in terms of organizations they're affiliated with? How was that then? How does that look like now? How long did it take for an article to be accepted? Where did it get accepted? Where did rejected articles ultimately get published? So we use all of that data to create a standardized and customized set of reports for our PaperStack clients. Next slide. So as mentioned, we use ROR in both our services, and both join together data from multiple unrelated data sets on the publisher side to give a complete picture of customer activity and the editorial process. And to do that, we need to identify which records relate to the same institution and individual. So matching with ROR means that we can link up all of the activity for a particular customer, even if the data doesn't have any IDs, or if multiple customer IDs are mistakenly assigned to the same institution, which can happen quite a lot. So ultimately, the data that we're dealing with is quite messy, and part of the loading process that we go through and the work that we do for publishers is cleaning and standardizing that. And ROR is a key part of us being able to do that. So we can standardize the data using name and location information from ROR for the main display, so that the format is consistent across all data sources. So you know that when you're looking at variant forms of Oxford University or sub-levels of Oxford University, it's a single identity that you can be sure of what it is. We do the matching not just for institutions, I say, but also for individuals, so linking them to their associated institution. So that means that our clients are able to analyze data at the individual level as well as the institutional level. So as we load data, we'll match it to reference data set, so ROR in this case, and where the IDs are there that we can match, we'll use those. If not, we'll use our own tools to auto match against ROR. So we're really proud of the auto matching tools that we've got. Ultimately, it can link lots of messy real world data to the correct ROR records with a pretty high degree of accuracy. So the rules and exceptions that we use have been refined over quite a long time, so that we can bring together different versions of Goethe University in this particular case under the correct ROR ID. We'll also use auto matching tools to provide additional source services to publishers who might come to us and say, you know, we've got 10,000 institutional records, they're just a complete mess. Can you dedupe it, standardize it, match it to ROR, etc.? So we can do that kind of thing for them as well. Next slide. So in terms of ROR integration, that was pretty straightforward. Because ROR contained exactly the same data as Grid, including IDs, it made it easy for us to test and implement that. So we essentially migrated each client site, and we were able to check that the matching tools that we used were always giving the same results as ROR IDs. There's always lots of challenges around that, particularly using messy real-world data. But with the tools that we've got in place and the raw data set itself, that becomes pretty easy. Ongoing, we update MasterVision and PaperStack monthly using the full data dump. And really, I guess our main concern previously was that there was no concept of inactive organizations, so it's great to see that that's been addressed. Going forward, from our point of view, adding new records and increasing the scope of the data set is really important. And it's also key to have an organizational hierarchy that's lean and relevant. So having too many layers just takes away the usefulness of that and muddies the water a bit. So if you're looking for a sales prospect, or you're looking to understand at what level a subscription is sitting at, or you want to know what authors are submitting at a given institution, you don't really want too many layers within that hierarchy. You just want to know the direct relationships and maybe a sub-level or two to that. So the ROR hierarchy for us is really good. In terms of future possibilities, ROR does open up a number of possibilities for us, such as integrating with other systems. And we're currently looking at bringing OpenAlex IDs into PaperStack. That should be pretty straightforward because you can use the ROR IDs to retrieve OpenAlex IDs through their API. So from our point of view, we're loving ROR being free and open to everyone, and it suits certainly what we do and what our publishers want to do with their data really well. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I encourage everyone to go and read the case study that we did with Andy, where we have, I think, even more screenshots. And it's great to hear about your text string matching as well, and that's working quite well.
Yep.
Great. So now we have yet another featured integration of a tool that in some ways I think is doing something a bit similar to DataSalon in that it's, you know, metrics-based in a way, analytics-based. So we have Joe Mcarthur here, who is the lead at OA Works, to tell us about ROR in OA.Report. Over to you, Joe.
Thanks, Amanda. Next slide, please. So yeah, OA.Report in some sense is quite similar, lots of metrics and dashboards for folks. But our focus is quite different. We're interested in helping organizations implement their open access policies. We mainly do that for funders at the moment, but it really can work for any organization, even if they don't have a policy and just want to push open forward with their grantees and staff. You know, through that, there's a few things that we try and focus on in the tool. Identifying research outputs. Many of you will know where we'll be going with the ROR integration here. You know, analyzing how open they are and if they comply with the open access policy. Where we tend to go a bit further than most dashboards is we also will tee up actions for people to take at the individual article level to sort of get more research outputs to be open. Another big way that we tend to go further than others is that we're looking at data availability statements, open data, open code, sort of looking at lots of different ways that an article can have open outputs associated with it. So yeah, that's a quick overview of OA.Report. Next slide, please. We are using ROR in a very central way. It's how we identify organizations, which for a tool that is all about helping organizations advance open is pretty important. So one of the ways is that it lives in our URLs and is how a lot of people find and share reports. But there's many others. Amanda, next slide, please. Thank you. So yeah, it's kind of our default identifier for organizations. So with that, we get a nice, good, curated, trustable list of who organizations in the space. We tend to filter that down to just funders for the time being, using FundRef, the presence of a FundRef ID and some heuristics about funder names and organization names and things like that. We're of course using a lot of the metadata that ROR provides as a super strong starting point for finding articles about organizations. We are searching Crossref, OpenAlex, the great and the good of open metadata for the presence of RORs as well. So that's a really big element of ROR's usefulness for us. We do often find ourselves using multiple RORs at a time for certain searches, for certain organizations. It's really useful to have some of those relationships and sort of ditto to to DataSalon, sort of not having them be too deep and too complex is actually quite nice. It's a good resolution for us, which is great. We do find ourselves enriching bits of data and things like that, but we do find there's just a really great floor provided by ROR. Next slide. I think that's a fairly traditional sort of use of ROR. What it enables for us is really finding a lot more research outputs more easily. And one thing that we're really excited about is that getting better and better over time. We do a lot of manual work for folks using the tool to sort of fill the gaps between where persistent identifiers are now and where we want them to be. And that big gap for us represents a lot of manual work, a lot of cleaning that we're doing to help folks out. But we're sort of excited for that line to go up and to the right, and for that work to decrease, and for some of these questions to be available just out of any tool, so you don't need to use OA.Report. I think so that's really good for us. For folks we're working with, it means they need to tell us much less about the aliases they might have, other IDs they might have. That's really, really great. It's good for the very busy staff at funders that we work with. The bedrock of that basic information allows us to open up a lot of OA.Report's basic and very automated analysis to folks for free, and that feels really good for us as a nonprofit who has been giving away as much of their tools as possible for free for a decade now. So that's really great. The other final thing is it's super valuable. It's great to be able to open IDs are a really good complement to open source code, open data. So it's really great to be able to support that as well. So that's for us how we use ROR. We're big fans at OA.Report, at OA Works. We build like a bunch of other tools. They all have RORs in them as well, so I could come back 4 or 5 times and sort of talk about those. But OA.Report is the one for today. So yeah, we're big fans, and thank you to everyone in the community for their work on it.
Oh, thank you so much, Joe. All right, we have time for questions now, and I see people have been asking questions in the chat. Feel free to unmute and ask them live as well. I did want to mention as well that I did look up that spike in the DataSite chart, and those microbial strains are actually registered in DataSite as data sets, although I think there was a little bit of discussion at DataSite about whether they should instead be physical samples, but for now they are registered as data sets. And Wendy, I thought that was really interesting what you said about which funders are in there, because I would actually really like to track that as well. How many unique ROR IDs are they asserting in DataSite would be something interesting to know, because it may not be that many. Very often you see that it's one funder who has funded a lot of this work, so it's a single ID.
Amanda, can I add something? This is Wendy.
Sure, yeah.
On that link that I put into chat, there seemed to be a link to the funders, and the funders there, it was literally 2 funders listed, one with 1 and one with 290,000. So it was a very small number of
funders.
IDs.
Oh, see, that's, yeah, I didn't read it that closely.
Yes, yeah. So I knew it was about 2. Yeah, it's just this tiny little spreadsheet.
That's funny, yeah. But actually, when we do the, I mean, in a way, that's not surprising, right? Because it is probably one funder. I mean, it could even have been one project, right, funded by one funder to catalog microbial strains. So yeah, it's what I will do is start collecting that and maybe do a little chart about how many unique ROR IDs there are. I've been tracking that in Crossref for sure. I can't remember if I've been tracking it in DataSite, but I know that the number of unique ROR IDs has been increasing in Crossref for sure. But even so, the number of unique ROR IDs used in affiliations in Crossref, if I remember correctly, it's somewhere around like 5,000, 6,000. So it's quite a small percentage of potential ROR IDs that are actually used right now in Crossref. And you can track that in DataSite. I just can't remember if I have been tracking it. But yeah, when we do the blog post in a few days with the extremely deep dive into comparing the funder registry with ROR, one of the things that we've learned from that is that, as Adam posted in the chat, it's a relatively, like, how can I put this? So there are funding assertions in Crossref, right? But then a large proportion of those will be NSF. So it's a single funder ID, a single ROR ID. So when Adam has been, and Maria have been working to make sure that funder IDs are represented in the ROR registry, they started by working on the ones with the most assertions in Crossref, right? So you want to make sure that that NSF record is complete and so on. And then there's a kind of a long tail of funders who are mentioned once or twice in Crossref, and those will be ones that we we'll be evaluating further. So yeah.
Yeah, and on that topic of the funder transition, I just posted a question in chat for you all to be thinking about. I know we're coming up to the end of the time today, but as you digest the information about the funder registry transition, please get in touch if there's specific information, guidance that you are needing or looking for. Let us know how we can help. And we'll be sending out a bunch more information, as Amanda indicated, as well. Yeah, so perhaps we should wrap up for now, and we can stay on the Zoom after we close the recording if anybody wants to stick around and chat. Let's go to the next slide, Amanda. But just want to thank all of you for taking the time to join today. Special thanks to our featured presenters for sharing their work and talking so eloquently about how they're working with ROR. And if you'd like to be featured at an upcoming call, get in touch. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and look forward to seeing you at the next call in November. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Yep. And you can, in fact, register for the next community call now on the ROR events page. So feel free to do that anytime you like.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.